Hi, welcome to the Forest of Arden. My name is Chris Ryan and today it is your Friday. This is where you provide all of the content for the videos on a Friday. I've been asking you to make comments on the videos or send me emails, Instagram posts, whatever it may be. Let me know what you would like me to do a video on, whether it be a question, whether it be a topic, whether it be a situation, whatever it may be, let me know and hopefully we can do a video to help you. Today we're helping Peter Stubbs. He sent me an email talking about weight distribution with the driver and the irons. He was basically saying that he had been having discussions with his playing partners about whether you should shift your weight or your pressure the same with your driver as you do with your irons. There was a little bit of a disagreement with them and they were talking about angle of attacks being more negative with an iron, more positive with the driver, and how would moving your pressure affect that. So we're going to answer that question. I thought it was a great question because I think it will help a lot of golfers out there just better understand what happens when we do hit the driver and the irons and how those differences might affect you. You'll notice I have got a mat down here. I have got my body track, which is going to help us. That's going to measure my pressure through my golf swing. It's very, very accurate. It's going to tell me exactly where I start, where I move, and then we can look at the differences between these two clubs and give you some idea on what you're looking for. So the first thing we're going to do is actually just hit a couple of shots with the iron, with the driver, so we can get some data. So we're going to start off with the 7-iron. I'm just going to hit my normal stock 7-iron off this 17th tee. Okay, felt like a pretty good swing. And then we're going to do the same thing with the driver. Now we've got the body track recording this data here, so we'll be able to have a look at it in a moment. And those are two pretty good swings. So it's pretty important that we make good swings because that's going to give us some pretty accurate data. Now, let's just talk about a few things we're going to discuss. We're going to first of all look at the traces, how they're similar, how they're different. So if we just first of all take a look at the starting positions of both of those, give or take, they're going to be fairly similar. Okay, we're going to have our pressure, our weight about 50-50. That's balanced between the lead foot and the trail foot. We're not going to go into in massive detail in this video, but I would tend to want to see a little bit more pressure on the lead side with your iron, so maybe 55-45, but as a general rule, about 50-50, both with irons and driver. Now, as we take both of these swings through into their backswing, what you're going to notice is they're fairly similar. In both of those swings, we're transferring pressure under this trail leg. Pressure being different to weight. We're not trying to simply move our weight over this way. That would be different. We're trying to move pressure. So as I make my backswing and I get to around about this point here with both of those swings, I'm moving my pressure under my trail side. As a guide, we're looking for about 80%. That's not a set in stone, but that's just a guide for what we're looking for. So at this point, we'd say they're fairly similar. Now, as we transition into the downswing, and that happens, a good distance before the club actually finishes moving away from the target. But as we start to move pressure onto our lead side. And you'll see that quite clearly from videos of golfers that you see, that the pressure starts to move onto this lead leg. And again, we would say that with the irons and with the driver, we're fairly similar. There's not a huge amount that's different at this stage. We're building more pressure under this lead side. Now, when we get towards impact, this is when we're going to start to see some differences between these two clubs. There is a point on both of these swings in the downswing where I've got loaded pressure under my lead side. The difference would be when I look at my iron, that pressure stays there as I go through to finish. So we could fairly simply say the pressure goes under my right side, under my left side, and then through to a finish. Now, when we look at the driver, we see something a little bit different. What you will notice is that right through impact, that pressure which was on my lead side suddenly shoots back onto my back foot. And you can see that with a trace, that almost like Z-type shape in that trace, that my pressure moves back onto my trail foot as I go through impact. Now, when I finish, again, I'm more on my lead side. So in answer to your question, Peter, there is certainly differences. What we're going to go through now is exactly why those differences are happening. As I hit the golf ball with all of my clubs, there's going to be a few things that happen in my body. I'm going to extend, I'm going to rotate, and there's going to be a little bit of what we call push, which helps me to do those things. Now, as I'm hitting the driver, I'm effectively trying to hit this club a little bit harder. I'm trying to impart a little bit more speed into the club head. Therefore, my push, rotation and extension is happening with a little bit more force. Now, when we say push, we are literally talking about pushing away from the ground. So if I do that with the driver with more force, there's going to be more push, which means that there will be a point in my golf swing where as I push, my lead foot momentarily leaves the ground. And we see this demonstrated by some of the best golfers in the world at the moment. Justin Thomas, for example, at the moment, you'll notice his left foot's off the ground. Ricky Fowler, very, very similar move. So this is demonstrated by a lot of golfers. So as we push, the lead foot will often leave the ground. What that will mean is that suddenly the pressure shoots back to the trail foot. It doesn't mean my weight is moving that way. It just means that if I was to stand here with my weight 50-50, lifted up my lead foot, 100% of that pressure would go back into this foot. We would see that in the trace. It doesn't mean I've shifted my weight, it just means that I've lifted my lead foot. So with the driver, as I go through impact, weight is on my lead side. As I push and jump, the weight shoots back a little bit. Now, there's really some key things to appreciate here. Firstly, I'm not trying to do this. My intention with the driver and the irons is the same. It's just that I'm trying to apply more force and more speed in this golf swing. I'm not suddenly trying to do anything different. I'm not suddenly trying to hit the ball by moving my weight back. That's not what I'm doing. So even though the intent is the same, the outcome is different because there's more pressure. If the outcome is different, the feels might be different. So the three takeaways here would be what you're trying to do should stay the same. That's number one. What happens will be different. Number three, what it feels like might be different. So that's where it becomes a little bit of a conflicting, is that it might feel different even though you're trying to do the same thing. It's all to do with how much speed and how much force you generate in your golf swing. If you're a golfer out there who doesn't hit the driver particularly far, you may well find that your trace is the same with driver as it is with irons. For you longer hitters out there, or for those ones who are trying to insert a little bit more speed into the golf swing, you may well start to see some differences happening in that trace. The longest hitters that you will see will generally have the trace moving back onto the trail foot as they hit the golf ball. That is absolutely fine. That's something we would see in the longer hitters. So, Peter, hopefully that clears up a little bit of that for you. Definitely try and do the same thing with your driver and your irons, but appreciate that it might not be the same and it might feel a little bit different. Hopefully that was cleared up a few things for a lot of golfers out there. With the irons and the driver, the swings are different, okay? I think we're kind of getting past the stage now where we tell someone with a driver it's just a 7-iron swing with a longer club. It is different, it's going to feel different. We're exerting a lot more force through the body from the ground, and that is why we see those different patterns. Thank you very much for watching. All the usual stuff is down below. That's a like box, a like button, I should say, a comments box, and a link to subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and click the link. It'll just give you a notification each time I post a video, and it means you won't miss any of the content. Thank you again for watching, and we shall see you back here again soon.